Hello, my name is Betsy Valdez, and welcome to Empowered Conversations Rising Above Hate. This is a project that will focus on having open, honest conversations with different women. Our hope is that these conversations will allow us to learn, to listen, and to perhaps have a better understanding of what's happening in the world around us. Today, I have the privilege of interviewing or having a conversation with an amazing woman, a powerful woman who is a mom, an entrepreneur. She is an educator, she is an author, and she is an advocate for women and girls all over the world. So, LaGail, welcome, and thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for having and willing to be here today. Welcome.
Hi, Betsy. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you, thank you. So LaGail, to start off, can you share with the audience a little bit about you and what you do?
Well, I'm LaGail Michelle, and I'm a mother and an author and everything else Betsy said. I run a youth group called Created to Be, and it's a passion project of mine, and it's very near and dear to my heart. I have mentored over 30 girls so far, and right now I have a small group of, say, about 12 girls that I'm in regular contact with every day. So it is the joy of my life. And besides that, being a mom, being an educator, it's just who I am. So I take joy in the things that I get to do in life. So that's all.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I definitely look forward. I know I do follow you on Facebook, but I look forward to seeing more of that. So thank you for sharing that. So as I mentioned, this project, it really is to understand and discuss not only common grounds, but I also believe it's an opportunity for us to expose differences among all of our communities. So I want to start off by asking you a few questions, if that's okay with you.
Awesome.
What is, I know that racism is something that is thrown around a lot. I think more now than ever. What is racism to you?
To me, racism is a prejudice and discrimination against a group of people solely based on their racial or ethnic groups. That's it.
Okay. I came across a quote, and man, I wish I had it ready, but it really gave me it allowed me to see it a little differently, or perhaps not see it differently, but I like the way that it was worded. And this is by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But racism in America is like dust in the air. It seems invisible until you let the sun in, then you see it's everywhere. As long as we keep shining that light, we have a chance of cleaning it. And I love that, because I believe that whenever we pretend like it's not real, we pretend like it's not happening, we just brush it off like it's no big deal, nothing will be better. Right. And again, our goal with these conversations is we want to talk about it. It might be a little uncomfortable, it might be a little rough at times, but we want to talk about it. We want to shed light on this issue that is happening today here in our communities. So, LaGail, what is your personal experience with racism?
My experience with racism. Well, I'm sorry, you cut out for a second.
No, I was just asking you just your personal experience with racism, if you don't mind sharing with us.
Okay, so I was thinking back to the very first time I experienced racism, and I was 16 years old, and I worked at Burger King at the time. It was my first job in high school, and I was at the counter taking a man's order, and behind me on the wall was a flyer, or like a poster thing, of a girl who had been kidnapped. So it was just like, if you see her, call police, blah, blah, blah. So he's looking past me at the flyer, and he goes, "Oh, someone's been kidnapped." And I'm like, "Yeah, they just posted this." And he was Caucasian. The girl on the flyer was Caucasian. And he goes, "A white girl? A white girl?" And I was like, yeah, she's white. And he goes, they must have been black. Whoever took her must have been black. Why would anyone ever want to kidnap a white girl? I could see if she was black, but white. And he just kept saying it over and over. And I'm like, me and this girl on the poster, we're probably around the same age, but he just kept saying it like it was beyond him. So I'm like, okay. So I started to get uncomfortable. I took his order and I took his money and I walked to the back and I told my manager what had happened. And I just sat there and I was flabbergasted, but it was just, I don't know if it was racism towards me or what, but that was the first time I had felt like I was different, or, you know, there was a difference between myself and someone else. Now, my whole life, I grew up with all different kinds of people. We had white, Asian, Indian, and Latino friends in our neighborhoods. My mom, she worked with a diverse group of people. So honestly, growing up, my mom has made sure that I've known that the world wasn't just black or wasn't just white. So I never saw myself as different than anybody else. And you know how people say, oh, I have friends of all different colors, and you know, I got white friends, I have black, like I literally have friends of all colors, and I don't see us as any different. So when he said that, he created that difference. And then that's when I noticed that I am different in some type of way, you know. So that was my first time really experiencing what I believe racism to be.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing. And, you know, I think, and I do hear that a lot, you know, and I can honestly tell you that I have friends of all different backgrounds, color, religion, political beliefs. I mean, I have them all across. And not ever do I sit here and say, well, I can only be friends with these people. I can only be friends with that. And I want the same thing for my girls. I want them to have a diverse group of friends, a diverse group of mentors, diverse group of just a diversity across all areas of our lives. I think it's important. But I think that it's also important that we recognize that, you know, just as much as we are there, as I mentioned earlier, you know, we want to discuss the common ground that as humans, as human beings, that's what unites us. Being human beings, it's humankind. But what are the differences? And I think that there also is beauty in the differences, right? Because there's the cultures, there's the languages, there's everything that comes with that. And I think that that's beautiful to also recognize that, not as a way to divide us. And I think that that's, in my opinion, that's what I believe is happening today, is that we are talking about our differences, but in a way that it's creating that division. If there was already division, this is creating it bigger and bigger. You know, there's this gap. And so how do we close that? You know, how do we work towards having more unity and understanding? So again, LaGail, thank you for sharing that with me. Who or what do you think is at the root of the problem of racism?
Grown-ups. I think it starts as children. I think everything starts when we're younger, and the miseducation that is there, and those deep-rooted ideas and beliefs that are just perpetuated down the line. Excuse me. So if you have a mom and a dad who thinks a way, and you're hearing things and you're seeing things and you're seeing actions, then you grow up because that's normal to you. You know, that's why I can see it on both sides, where it's like, okay, yeah, racism, it's bad and no one should be racist. However, do you grow up choosing to be racist? It's just a part of your experience. My mom doesn't think Black people are this way or whatever, or she thinks they're this way. And then she gives you proof of why she believes it's this way. So then you start to believe those ideas, and then you start perpetuating those ideas to your children, who in turn grow up that way also. So I think it has a lot to do with your environment and what you see growing up and what you're around, the people you're around, and things that you hear and see. And if you don't have any agent of change to come in and change those ideas and those thoughts, and for you to see different actions and different people doing different things in different ways, that just becomes your normal, you know? So like my normal, I have friends of all different backgrounds. And that's normal to me, you know? So I don't see people in a negative way. I see them in the way that I see them. So that's my normal, whereas that's their normal. So until something comes in and breaks that up and changes it up, and that's what it is.
Do you think that everything that is happening right now, do you think that it is creating change? Do you think more people are becoming more aware of, like, I agree with you. I think that, you know, hate is not something that you're born with. Racism is not something that you're born with. I look at my girls and, you know, you ask them about other kids, and racism and hate is not something that they go to, right? They go to what's love and acceptance and wanting to play, you know, and it doesn't matter who that is with. It's not until they are exposed to it of, you know, those ideas start, you know, getting them in their head, and this is what you should believe. But as adults, you know, I do believe that it's our responsibility both ways, you know, as because even as a Latina, as a woman of color, there's still a lot for me to learn. There is still, I can tell you that even within our own communities, racism, hate still exists. So the work has to be done all across. Right. So back to my question, do you think that what we're seeing today, what we're seeing in the world today with the protests, with everything, do you think that that is waking people up? Do you think that that is creating change?
I will hope that it's creating change. I do believe it's creating a sense of awareness now that it's just not covered or hidden anymore. Like, it's out there and the mirror is being held up to show people their thought processes and what they think about different things. And it's challenging them to think in different ways. Is it creating a change? I would only hope so. But I do believe that the awareness is there now for the change to occur.
Absolutely. You know, when I think of sharing stories, you know, you share your first experience of racism, and I'm sure that it probably, you know, was the first, but correct me if I'm wrong, maybe not the last, you know, because I know that I've encountered different times of racism as well, microaggressions. But I also believe that, you know, at the moment that right now, everything that we're seeing is through the lens of, you know, the news, social media. And so I think that many times we think, oh gosh, this is so far away, this is happening, but it's happening over there. It's not happening here. It's not real. And so for me, I'm a big believer in whenever we start sharing and we start opening up and having these honest conversations and sharing our experiences with something like this, with racism, we start to give a face, we start to give a voice to an issue that perhaps before people would not have listened to, because they think that it's so far away, it's non-existent. That happens, but it doesn't happen in my hometown. It happens, but no one I know. Right. You'd be surprised, right? I think that we are seeing a lot of people's true colors with everything that's happening, right? What they believe, what they don't believe, what they agree with, and what they don't agree with. And I'm not saying that I have the right answer, because that is far from the truth. But, you know, I think it is important that we give a face, that we give a voice to these issues, and because people are going to start seeing it as real and create that awareness that I do believe is needed in order for us to start creating change. What is it? I don't know, but I hope that as we work together that we are able to see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what can I or anyone else who, actually, let me back up a little. Do you think the word ally, is ally the right word of someone who perhaps wants to learn more, wants to be educated, wants to support you? Is ally the correct term? Or what else, what other term, I guess, would you use for someone who wants to be here for you?
I like the term ally. I graduated from Mercy High School in Farmington Hills here in Michigan. And there were several Facebook groups started amongst Mercy Girls, and I'm in the Mercy Girls, for like the Black Mercy Girls. We have our own group. And then there's another group that has been formed, and it was, I'm sorry, was it BIPOC or BIPOC?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was like the first time I had ever heard that term. And when someone invited me to join the group, so I joined the group, and it was amazing to me that there were other women of color who wanted to stand as allies with us, you know, and they wanted to come and help create change, and they wanted to stand up as well. Because when you think of, or at least I do, when you think of racism and discrimination and things like that, first people pop into my mind are Black people. That's like the first group of people that pop into my mind. But then to realize that Latinas and Asian women and Native American, the women of Native American descent, like we all experience a lot of the same things, but it's just like the Black thing is highlighted the most, like the Black versus white. So for them to create that group, and they're like, we want to stand with you, and we want to also create change in all our communities. I was like, that's awesome, you know? So it made me feel like we are not just alone in this. And we know we're not alone, but it's like Black people have to fight so much harder, you know? So to have these other women stand up and say, hey, we are with you, we stand with you, we are allies. I was like, I like that. I like that a lot. So yeah.
You gave me the chills when you said, you know, I stand with you. A friend recently shared a poem. I don't have the poem in front of me, and it's fairly long. I'll post it maybe when I post this interview. But one of the parts that stood out to me is, will you stand in the fire with me? Mm-hmm. And I thought, phew, man, that's right now, yeah. Right? There is so much negativity. There is so much chaos. And honestly, sometimes that's loud. It's louder than the positivity that we want to give out. It's louder than anything else, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and now you combine it with a pandemic right now. Obviously, these are some heavy, hard times. And to know that someone will stand in the fire with you, I mean, that, again, it gives me chills just to think of that, because you can actually picture that. Like, I am holding hands with my sister. Yes. Of all backgrounds, of all ethnicities, of all walks of life. And we are standing in the fire, holding hands, linking arms, and saying, I got you. I'm standing with you.
Oh, I have chills too. Like, how beautiful is it?
Yeah. I came across this on Instagram, on Pinterest, I'm sorry. And this is, I have to give credit to, it's called Durami Blog. But they gave a different, not a different, but they gave the definition of ally, or at least an acronym of the ally. And so ally stands for A, acts, L, listens, L, learns, and Y, yields. And I thought that was perfect. That is an ally. Now, back to the question that I was asking you earlier, what can I, or anyone else who is listening and who is committed to being an ally, what can we do? What can we do to be better allies?
Exactly what you're doing right now. Have these conversations, create the platforms for these conversations to occur, give us a space, or give everyone a space to just speak and share, because I believe that's what's going to create the change, is for people to begin like sharing and speaking out, instead of it being like the dust, like it's there, but we don't see it until the light is shown. I believe that light is us having the ability to have these conversations and say, hey, this affects me in this way, or this has happened to me and it made me feel this way. Whereas someone else may say, I've had that conversation, or I've said those things, but I didn't know that will make anyone feel that way. So people need to know how their thoughts and their words and their actions, what they do, the consequences of those things, you know, because like I said, some people think it may be normal to say the N word, or it may be normal to call someone a slur term, or it may be funny or whatever, but to someone else, it's very hurtful and demeaning. So we need to start saying these things and having these conversations. And what you're doing right here is perfect. I have friends that I went to high school with, and since all of this has been uncovered, watching their Facebook post, I'm like, wow. Like one girl in particular, I love her. And we were not far from each other at graduation. And just to see her post and the things she was writing, I'm like, I can't even believe this is my friend. I can't believe this is the person that we went to the same high school, and our parents paid the same amount of tuition for us both to go there, but we come from two different places. And just to see that, like, behind everything else, this is what she thinks, and this is what she's grown up with. And we've had a conversation, and she inboxed me and she's like, LaGail, I'm sorry. I never mean to be insensitive to you. And I felt that. I knew that she wasn't doing it on purpose. She's not purposely trying to hurt anyone, but it's just, this is the way she's grown up, and that's the way she thinks. So I had gotten to the point where I'm like, I'm tired of being the Black friend that everyone's coming to. Like, I'm tired of having these conversations and having to explain, until one of my other friends said to me, LaGail, maybe you are that friend that needs to be the bridge for everyone else. And I was like, oh my God, like, okay. So then at that point, I was like, all right, I'll have these conversations and I'll tell people how this feels and what this looks like and what it feels like. So I'm honored to be that bridge for people, and I'm honored to be able to see things from both sides, so I feel that's my position right now. And that's my calling and what I have to do in all of this.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think it's a good point of, there are seasons in our lives, and sometimes we picture our lives being completely different. But then there comes times that we are called to do something different. And I can relate to you because, I'm not a Black woman, but as a Latina woman, there are many things that we also go through being an immigrant. There are many things that, I feel like, man, I have to explain myself. I have to explain myself again and again, and like, can't people understand? Right. But at the same time, people have come to me or you because they see something in you. Truly, they see a light in you. Yeah. And I mean, I say this with sincerely, thank you. Thank you for opening up, and thank you for willing to have this conversation, because that is what we lack today. We lack the ability to hold a conversation. The minute that somebody disagrees, the minute that somebody thinks something differently, it's attack after attack and belittling and name calling. We're not moving forward like that. And I don't care where you sit, whether it's on the left side or the right side or the middle, wherever. But having that ability to have a conversation, that is important. And that is the key, in my opinion, to start the change. Because this is where it is. This is where it's at. How powerful it is for me to hear your experiences. How powerful is it for you to hear my experiences, for me to learn? Maybe I didn't know before, because there is a lot for me to learn too, right? Oh, yeah. And there might be some things that I hold on to and that are not okay, but you bringing up and shedding some light on this, I'm like, thank you. But we have to be willing to do that. It's our responsibility to do that. So yes. Absolutely. Here's another question. Having you have a little girl, I have 3 little girls. In your opinion, what is the best way to have this conversation with children? The talk about racism. Do you have it? Do you not have it? What is your opinion?
See, that's tough, because I believe that everything starts young. And if we get it while they're young, we can get them to where we need them to be. However, it is scary, and you don't want to expose your innocent babies to too much of the world too quickly. You don't want to scare them. You want to protect them. And that's a motherly thing to nourish and nurture and protect. However, I have those conversations with my daughter, because I always feel at some point I'm so comfortable with my mortality that I know that I could be gone at any point. And I need to get her to the point where I can give her everything that I can give her to prepare her to be without me at any point. So I have those hard conversations with her, and I've talked to her about race and prejudice. I've had to talk to her about abuse and domestic things, like negative things that can happen between people. And she's 6, but my daughter, she's not a typical 6-year-old also. She can understand certain things, and she just has this air about her. Like, she's not a grown-up, but she has this mentality where I can have conversations with her. So I'm lucky in that way, that it's not that hard talking to her. But I do believe that all parents, we need to have those conversations. And you know your children, you know what they can take, how much they can take, and how much they can handle, and how to talk to them and how to have those conversations. Me, I can be straightforward. And, you know, I get on her level where, okay, mommy needs to tell you this, and you need to understand that, and blah, blah, blah. So I just come to her in my loving, kind, you know, motherly way that I speak to her. But I do think those conversations need to be had in some kind of way.
Thank you. It is tough. It's very tough. And I think that you bring a good point. You know, it's about knowing your child. What can your child take? Because, you know, again, I have 3 girls, and I have a 5, a 6, and an 11. So obviously their level of comprehension of, you know, it's all very different. And so how can I have, so I guess it's having an individual talk, right? And
That's right.
rather than a group talk, because some of her questions might not be right for the little ones, or vice versa, you know. And so I think that is a good point. It's just tough, right? You say you don't want to expose them to too much of what's happening in the world, but also they're going to find out, and they're going to learn things, perhaps in the way that we didn't want to.
Yes.
But because there's so much, you know, there's the social media, and none of my girls have social media, but my oldest has a phone now. And so now she's able to, you know, look up on Google. And when the George Floyd incident happened, you know, that horrible, I don't even know what to name it, you know, but when that happened, it was, my daughter came to me and she's like, Mom, what's happening, you know? And so it's like, man, how do you even do this? So I'm not gonna lie, it was hard. Like, how do I even talk to my 11-year-old? And not only my 11-year-old, my 5 and my 6 are here also listening. How do I have these conversations, right? Because again, I think for me, it's also important that we don't create this divisiveness, right? I don't want them to grow up with this fear, but I want them to grow up with the awareness, right? Again, there are so many things that we have in common, but also there are many things that we have our differences and our uniqueness, and embracing all that. And what does that mean in the world, right? So thank you. I still look forward to having these conversations with my girls. I've very lightly talked about them, but I think it's something that does need to happen.
You know, as mothers of amazing future women, these amazing little girls, I would rather be their first teacher. You know, let it come from us. Even if it's hard for us and we have to have those hard conversations, I would rather teach my daughter than to have someone walk into her first job and go, you should have been taken and not her, because she's more valuable than you are. You know, so I would rather that come from me, where it's like, okay, this is what it is, and this can happen and that can happen, and this is how some people think, but that's not who you are. This is who you are. And then you affirm and you speak and you love and you nurture and all of those things, and you build them up. See, my daughter, she's very confident. That little girl she has amazing confidence. And I'm like, she didn't get that from me, because I was a little wimp growing up. You know, it took me time to build that up. But this little girl came and shot out the womb like, here I am, I'm Amaya, you know? So I believe that me loving her and loving on her and speaking positive into her creates, like, it keeps that confidence going. So I don't worry too much about her. I know that the world is going to get to her and things are going to happen. And she's got her own journey to walk and she has her own lessons to learn. But mommy's going to be there to make sure that she's guided.
Absolutely.
And you are amazing and you are strong and you're standing up in your power. And from these past few years of just knowing you and watching your journey, I'm like, I have no doubt that your girls are going to be okay. And even seeing your family photos from the other day and just looking at their amazingly beautiful faces, I was like, oh my God, these girls are awesome. And I'm just looking forward to them going into the world and creating change and showing the world how powerful and awesome they are and just carrying on the light that you passed to them. So I'm excited and I'm happy and I'm so grateful that they have you as a mother. And I'm so excited and grateful for everyone who's going to be changed by hearing you and experiencing you and just listening to these conversations that you're taking out of your personal life to have. So taking time out of your personal life to have. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Those are wonderful. And amen to all of that. I mean, it also reminds me of the previous conversation that my friend Angela Garcia, who is, she is the mastermind behind all of this. She was the one who wanted to create something, wanted to do something, right, with these, with what's happening right now. And so we came up with the Empowered Conversations, Rising Above Hate. But you bring up that point, those affirmations, and you have to feed your children those affirmations. And
Yeah.
Again, on the previous conversation that Angela had with Sasha, she was our first guest. She talked about that, about you have to feed, and that's what you have to feed your children with. It's those positive affirmations. Because even though we want to shield our children, we want to keep them safe here and, in our arms and away from all the harm. Yeah, they're going to learn. They're going to go out into the world. They're going to face things without us. How are they going to show up? And I think that is huge, that whenever you do feed them with those affirmations and that belief and that strength, that they are powerful beyond measure, man, whew, it's powerful.
It's scary to think that one day we're going to have to release our babies out into that world. We take them to school, we pick them up, we make sure that they're where they need to be. But at some point, they're going to get a driver's license. They're going to get friends who have driver's license. They're going to be released out there into the world. But just like we feed them naturally and, we fatten them up and we feed them good food, we need to feed their spirits also and fatten their spirits up and get them strong and built up. So like we have to take our calcium and our vitamin C and all of that stuff to keep us strong. On the inside, we have to feed them those affirmations and we have to feed them that love and that assurance and that confidence in who they are and who we are for them. I think when kids know that they have that backing, like mommy's got my back. So I'm about to go out here and I'm going to do what I need to do because if anything, when I fall, mommy's got me. So they're going to, I have no doubt that they'll be okay.
Yes, I love that. I love that. It's powerful. I mean, I'm not a perfect mom. I definitely lose my more than I like to admit. But it is important for them to believe that and for them to know that I am here for them, whether it's a success, whether it's a failure. But in my eyes, even those failures are needed because that's what's going to strengthen them up. That's where they're going to stand in their power and say, you know what, man, that was a stumble, that was a huge hiccup, but here I am, and we go at it again. So I hope that is what they. I hope that is my hope, that that's how they face the world, and that's when we release them, that's how they will go out into the world.
Yes.
Okay, so on to the next question.
Okay.
You have hope for the future.
My hope for the future.
Do you have hope for the future?
Oh, do I have hope for a future? Yes, I do. I do have hope. Even though we're going through this time of, I feel like it's transformation. I feel like we're being renewed because the stuff is out there now. Now you get to choose what you do with the information. So my hope is that people just change for the good of all. So That's my hope. I have hope that it's going to be better. I do have hope that once I leave here and I exhaust everything that I have in me, and that everybody exhausts everything they have in them, that now that good goes out and that energy goes out, and it creates the change that needs to occur so that our babies can live a better experience than we did, and our grandbabies and our great grandbabies can live in a better life than, say, those from the past and what we had. So I think it gets better. I mean, some people look at it as gloom and doom and things like that, but we definitely aren't living in slavery as how slavery used to be. So I feel like I live in a better space where I get to use my gifts and talents and things like that. I get to use my voice, and I have this bit of freedom in some type of way to be able to say things that I need to say and work jobs that I need to work in, maneuver in ways. So then I can take that and pass it on so that they can have even more freedom to get out there and do and explore and give. So yes, I do have hope that it'll be better.
I think it's important to have hope, because then I think, to me, it's hope is the only, sometimes it seems like that's the only thing that we can hold on to, that we have.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'll admit there are many times, and I have to be better about stepping away from social media, from my phone, the news, all that, because it can be disheartening. It could be stressful. It could feel like there's no hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I always keep in mind is always look for the helpers, right? And when we look for the helpers, and we look for the healers, and we look for the inspirers, and the amazing powerhouses, like just powerful people.
The light.
That.
Yep. Yeah.
And if we cling to that, right? I mean, I'm a huge believer in energy. And so whatever we put out into the world is exactly what we're going to get back. Doesn't mean that bad crap is not going to happen, because it happens. Mm-hmm. But I believe so strongly that whatever that energy that you put out, it's going to come right back to you. And you are a helper, and you're a healer, and you are a transformer. And that's exactly what you're going to get back into your life. And I can tell you that that's exactly what I have. Yep. There are people who are, trying to get in and break that. Mm-hmm. But the healers and the helpers are stronger. And that is what gives me hope for the future.
Amen.
People like you give me hope for the future. Your daughter, with her confidence, and gives me hope for the future. My daughters, all the next generation, and the generation after that. We have to have hope, because if we don't have hope, then I think we've lost it.
Amen.
LaGail, what is one final message that you'd like to give to all of those who are listening to us today?
Teach the babies. Get them while they're young. Teach them the right things. Fill them up. Make them strong. I am a strong believer, and I love children. And I believe that children come here and that they have a clean slate, and they have the right and they deserve to be filled up with good things. And the only way that we're going to make anything better is if we get the children. We nurture the children. We give them, feed them the right things. And I think that's how we make the world better. That's how we're going to change the world. First, get an education ourselves, get our personal education, clean out the unhealthy things so that we are able to fill other cups with the right and the good things. So
Amen.
Yeah, get the
Amen.
babies.
Well, again, LaGail, thank you so much. It's an honor to have you here today, to be able to have this conversation with you. I thank you for the message. I thank you for the work that you are already doing. And again, I look forward to seeing more of that, because I think it's needed. It's necessary now more than ever. So thank you.
And thank you for having me. Thank you for creating a space for me to be able to speak. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. It is my pleasure. It is our pleasure here with the Empowered Conversations and Rising Above Hate. And so I want to end this with, I truly hope that these conversations, that not only do we learn as individuals, as a community, but as a nation, and even worldwide, that these conversations not only allow you to learn, that they inspire you, that they empower you, and above anything, that they allow you to rise above. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to the next conversation. So until next time, bye.
Bye.